What's good? Somehow, some way you found the channel. Middle MAGA. I go by Osiris. My dad used to say, "Trouble don't set like rain." He used to say that a lot. And but my parents are Jamaican. There's a lot of old, I guess, proverbs or sayings that they have in that culture, and I've always liked those different phrases because it's almost like a meme. It says a lot without many words. And trouble don't set like rain. It means that usually when bad things happen, you don't know. Like most recently, I believe his name is Ryan Carson, rest in peace, got stabbed, unfortunately, after a wedding. And it looked like, he went through his day, didn't know that was going to happen. There was no big sign of it happening until right in that moment within a few minutes. And normally you don't get a lot of warning. That's why you got to stay ready. You got to stay alert. There's another saying that people say that you got caught slipping. You don't want to get caught slipping. And that's the message for MAGA I have today. Hopefully you can stop on by. Thank you. Newsweek came out with an article today, and it discussed the FBI's efforts to monitor us. You in the chat. Hey, you just stopped on in the chat, Taco, and the first thing you hear is you're being monitored. Taco says they're not coming for you, you're just paranoid. The people coming for you. Taco is crazy, man. Taco, you got to do a show. Or did you ever do like radio or any type of writing or any type of medium? Because you got away with words, man. Taco is hilarious and just funny because the truth is there. Trump said famously, they're not coming for me. They're coming for you. I'm just in the way. He was being dead serious when he said that. He was absolutely right. We all know that famous saying. The Newsweek article discussed the FBI's efforts to monitor and counter potential threats from supporters of former President Donald Trump. That's all they're trying to do, is that they're just trying to keep everybody safe from those mean MAGA people. We're going to get into some of the details of that article. Not too detailed. It's something you've got to read. It's 4,000. I actually have it here, about 4,000 words. It's pretty in depth. Now, it doesn't get into details in certain areas that I would like, but the general theme of it is very serious. It's not a surprise. What we know in the moment is called a conspiracy theory. And then we just have to wait for them to acknowledge it. And then now it's just reality. How long have we been talking about the gulags? And what are we gonna do? Not only have we been talking about the gulags, we've been like, well, who's gonna beatbox? Who's got the rhymes? Who's gonna tell the jokes? We've already settled like who's gonna do what in the gulag. So we're not surprised by this, but it is still worth mentioning. What the intro to part of the problem with Comic Dave Smith. He says something to the effect of everything that they're doing to the terrorists overseas, that's what they're going to do to you and me. They're going after MAGA. And I really hope that people understand what that means. That means you, Kim Iverson. That means you, RBN, you're MAGA. That means you, Jen and Peter, you're MAGA. I basically did the same thing, but I was kind of being lighthearted. It's not so funny when the FBI they're basically saying, expect that, and that you're Nico House, you're MAGA. Comic Dave Smith, he already knows. I don't need to tell him. You're MAGA. Libertarian Party, you're MAGA. That's all that means. It's just the labels, the catch-all for what MAGA means is people who they would unlive if they could right now with no consequences and no logistical problems. That's all right wing means. That's all MAGA means right now. There's a bunch of people in that boat. The federal government has created a new category of extremists. So they have the power to label somebody as extreme. That's all that word means, is I have the power to label you that, and you don't have the power to stop me. Focusing on Trump's MAGA, Make America Great Again, followers due to concerns about the risk of violence and civil disturbances. Yeah, all that violence and civil disturbance that comes from the right in America. The FBI faces a delicate balance. It aims to prevent domestic terrorism while also preserving Americans' constitutional rights to free speech and protest. Where's the delicate balance? I think the Constitution is pretty clear. The article reveals that most of the FBI's current anti-government investigations target, wait for it, Trump supporters. It also discusses the challenges the FBI faces in labeling these activities as domestic terrorism. You might say, well, Kim Iverson's not a Trump supporter. Well, Kim Iverson's not a Putin supporter either. And that's what they label her. Jimmy Dore's not a Trump supporter. He's not a Putin supporter either, but that's what they label him. Jackson Hinkle might be Jackson Hinkle's a Putin supporter. Stephen Ignoramus is a Putin supporter. I honestly don't know how much of it is tongue-in-cheek and how much is real behind that. But Nico House, obviously not a Trump supporter. But sorry, Nico. Sorry, Pasta. Sorry, Fiorella. When they label Trump supporter, just like with the Ukraine war, they say, oh, you don't believe the narrative? Well, then you're a Putin supporter. Tucker Carlson is a Putin supporter. So you are a Trump supporter, believe it or not. Suggests that the FBI is in a difficult position, caught between the Biden administration, which is their boss, which views MAGA supporters as a threat to democracy, and accusations from Republicans that the agency is being weaponized against the right wing. I don't really see the same thing. What are they worried about? They're worried about Jim Jordan and Thomas Massey putting on glasses and writing a letter. There's no real worry here. The article also digs into classified data showing that the number of domestic terrorism-related cases has significantly increased, particularly after events like J6. So J6 was a setup by the government, and even just saying that puts you on a list, a watch list. Hi, agent. How you doing? Here we go again. I have no beef with you. You know I'm peaceful. You've dug into everything, I'm sure. However, the article questions whether the term terrorism is the most effective way to describe the current situation, as it may not accurately capture the complexities of domestic political violence. What is all this domestic political violence that they're talking about? You mean like in Philly when those baby kids went out and robbed Lululemon, Apple Store, Foot Locker, and they were filming themselves doing it? Is that what you're talking about? Overall, the article presents a nuanced look. Yeah, somewhat. There's this category that's been created that is a bunch of letters. And all those letters really stand for is going after you and I. Terminology and strategy. The FBI's goal is to detect and stop terrorist attacks, focusing on potential criminal violations, violence, and threats of violence. So you might think, well, I try to overstate the peacefulness of any of my recommended solutions to these problems, but that does not matter. because I say, and I will still say, and I stand on it, that Donald Trump shouldn't be going into a courthouse in New York. The great experiment is over. There should be no legitimacy from Donald Trump should not give these courts any legitimacy. He should have been working with some governor somewhere to make some state red enough to be a sanctuary state for him, the Michigan 16, the Georgia 19, I believe it is, and the J6ers. And say, hey, we're peaceful. We don't want any beef. We're just going to stay here in X state and leave us the hell alone. That's not an aggressive stance. That's a peaceful stance. Do you think the FBI thinks that's a peaceful stance? I could say peace. I could say I'm the most soft teddy bear in the world. And they would look at this comment that we're saying right now, that I'm saying right now, my stance, that Donald Trump shouldn't have went to any of these arraignments. They would say that is something else that it's not. Because they have the power right now to define these terms. Boring Life, thanks for stopping by. If you had to vote, Biden or Putin? If you have to give me a choice, I'm going to choose Putin. I mean, there's no doubt about that. There ain't no question about that one. I mean, it's a no-brainer. But I would prefer neither. Let's make that clear. Taco says, "Oh, you like freedom? Looks like we got another terrorist on the list." Oh, I forget. I gotta keep it quiet before I don't want to wake up my wife. I remember watching Brandon Tatum's lives from years ago where he was in his crib or whatever. He had to kind of keep it quiet, not to wake up his wife at times. Now he's in his studio or whatever. He's good. And this is a Brandon Tatum hat, by the way. I haven't talked about that. I mean, I love this hat. I've never worn this. Just keep that crisp. We got math, of course. Make America think harder. Isn't that I kind of like that. MAGA and math. I kind of like that. Make America think harder and then make America great again. It's only the most beautiful political movement in the history of our country. Why would you want to stop that? I'm going to get into that. That's really the heart of this, is why. Let me get some more details out on this, and then we'll get into the why. The Biden administration has presented Trump and MAGA as an existential threat to American democracy. I mean, basically, treating MAGA like Al-Qaeda is basically, that's the take. So when Biden does his red sermon speech, it wasn't just like rhetoric. He really meant that. And they ate it up. And not only that, that speech worked too. I really hate to say it, but that speech was very effective at laying it out. And we saw that in the midterms. I thought the speech would have hurt them, not helped them. But he stood up there looking like Hitler, literally.
MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
Oh, does it? Because we don't like you? You and your bitch ass? You think I'm going to stop talking about you because you got FBI people watching? Get the hell out of here.
Now, I want to be very clear up front. Not every Republican, not even the majority Republicans.
Oh, that's the good
Republicans.
It's the good Republicans.
Not every Republican embraces their extreme ideology.
Oh, no. Like the Joe Scarboroughs. I got to be like a Joe Scarborough. I know that you're a bitch-ass politician, but I want to keep my job, so I leave the Republican Party and I become a bitch-ass on TV every single day, licking the boot of the establishment. That makes you a good Republican. That makes you an alarm puller. As long as you pull the alarm, you're a good Republican. But if you question me, then you're not.
I know, because I've been able to work with these mainstream Republicans.
Mainstream?
But there's no question that the Republican Party today is dominated, driven, and intimidated by Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans.
Okay, word.
And that is a threat to this country.
So he said it right there. So if you have doubts about the validity of the article and the sources and everything, well, he said it in a speech. Remember that? Maybe I need to go break that one back down. That was a hell of a moment in our country with the Hitler backdrop or the Star Wars. What was that one called? Was it The Last Jedi? I like that one. A lot of people did not. Let me not get off a tangent because people rip me a new asshole when I talk about liking that movie. The FBI's data shows a decrease in the number of investigations since the J6 cases ended. The FBI and the Department of Homeland Security report that threats from domestic violent extremists have increased in the last 2 years. In October 2022, the FBI created a new subcategory. These are the letters I was telling you about. AGAAVE/other. Who is that? For those who pose a threat but do not fit in its existing categories. Meaning they're not really terrorists, but we need to put them in something to make them terrorists. This is the take where I've said they would probably have us in the gulags if they could logistically work it out. Although Trump and MAGA are not mentioned in the official description, government insiders acknowledge that it applies to political violence ascribed to Trump supporters. So the FBI only has about 4,500 agents that work on terrorism. And then about 1/4 of these focus on domestic terrorism. So we're looking at a small group. Remember, they're trying to expand. They got that big building coming up. That's part of this a budget battle, is that FBI building. It's going to be a lot of money. Of about 12,000 intelligence reports prepared by domestic agencies between 2017 and 2021, only 901 or fewer than 10% related to domestic terrorism. Some experts question the utility of labeling disgruntled Americans as terrorists. I love that. Some experts are a little concerned. Like you have Americans that are just not happy with what's going on in America. You could include Black Lives Matter people and all that, but of course they're not terrorists. But, people that are your political enemies, they're just not happy with the way things are going. It's a little uncomfortable to some experts. Just some. To some experts, why would you label your own citizens as terrorists, especially in America? Some people don't like the term terrorists. You can change the term. The actions are the problem here. Most prosecutors tend to charge individuals with other crimes instead of domestic terrorism, even in clear cases of political violence. So they're trying to make an argument that there's more than what you see. So they still argue over that term terrorism. So I was like, well, I'm trying to figure out, what do you mean by Trump supporters? And it doesn't really get into specifics. It just says followers of Donald Trump's MAGA movement. What if I wear MAGA, but I don't think Trump's MAGA enough. I guess that puts a bigger bullseye on me. Like MAGA's here, and then Trump's not where I want him to be. So I might not, I'm still on Trump's side, generally speaking, but I don't think he's MAGA enough. So I guess that's a bigger problem, huh? The article goes on, and then there's some quotes on this article. I did a whole separate thing just looking at the quotes from this article. Oh, wow. It is pretty bananas. Let's look at some of the quotes. An anonymous quote. The FBI, they say the FBI is in that challenging position. Again, an anonymous quote, especially at the time when the White House is facing congressional Republican opposition that has weaponized the Bureau against right wing. It has to tread very carefully. Again, I don't believe that, but that's giving you the quotes here. Brian Michael Jenkins, terrorism expert. The current political environment is not something that the FBI is necessarily responsible for, nor should it be. That is inaccurate. Of course, the FBI is responsible for the current environment. When you get in front of Congress and the people in MAGA are paying way more attention. Most people are not, but I think it's fair to say MAGA is paying way more attention to what's happening in our world than non-MAGA. And you see it with the battle for speaker. MAGA's watching the battle for speaker like it's a primetime TV show. Non-MAGA's like, I don't know what's happening. But their takes are really strong and energetic, though, even though they don't know what's happening. And that's just my vibe. That's anecdotal. The current environment is not something that the FBI is necessarily responsible for. Do you know what happened on J6? Do you know that we still don't have a clear account for how many undercovers from any of these agencies, any law enforcement was there? So if you can't even tell us that, then we've got problems. So, and you're responsible for the current environment. Well, I mean, what does that mean? I can say they're responsible, but no one's going to hold them to account. FBI statement. The threat posed by domestic violent extremists is persistent, evolving, and deadly. The FBI's goal is to detect and stop terrorist attacks, and focus is on potential criminal violations, violence, and threats of violence. Anonymous official from the FBI, we cannot and do not investigate ideology. Well, look at this, how they do this. So this anonymous figure said, we don't investigate ideology. We focus on individuals who commit or intend to commit violence or criminal activity that constitutes a federal crime or possesses a threat to national security. So when you hear Joe Biden call MAGA extremists, and then after the speech he said, well, I was talking about the politicians, not the common people. Yeah, right. Obviously, they think MAGA poses a threat to national security. So you are investigating ideology, you just don't call it out that as such. Another senior intelligence, this is all from the same article. You got to go read this article. It's not like the Time article. That article, I'll print that thing out and frame it. That article will be discussed millions of years down the road from now. But this, it's not in that realm, but this is pretty significant. They're just giving us a warning sign. And I will tell you my takeaway. The takeaway is not to be scared. I mean, for me, the takeaway is not to be, I mean, if you read this and you're scared, I think to be scared is a natural instinct. It's your body trying to say, I want to stay alive. So that just like if you're in the street, you see somebody that's a little shady, you might want to cross the street. You might want to distance yourself. That is your body saying, let's be careful here. You want to protect your life. I don't blame you, but that's not my goal here. My goal is to see what's happening and then to adjust accordingly, make adjustments accordingly. Trump's army, this is a quote from a senior intelligence official. Remember, many of these people are the same people that run the platforms that you're watching me on. X, YouTube. I don't know about Rumble, but let's just do Meta, Facebook, Instagram, X. They're ran by these people, these anonymous, the same, or X people. It's basically it's almost like they went down the hall and now it's a different company. But we've heard stories, we've covered stories. They still communicate with their old company, which is the government. Trump's army constitutes the greatest threat of violence domestically, politically. That's the reality and the problem set. That is a quote. The quotes are crazy in this article. That's a quote from a senior intelligence official. Trump's army constitutes the greatest threat of violence domestically, politically. That's the reality and the problem set. That's the way that this person's describing the most peaceful Rainbow Coalition movement, to me, politically, in the history of our country. Senior intelligence official at the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, quote, when you are used to hearing that the sky is falling every day, when that's the nature of cable news and Twitter worlds we live, where everything's overstated, there's a lot of room for doubt. And I do want to watch that, not to overstate things. And that's going to happen from time to time, but that's not a substantive argument. Christopher Costa, former White House head of counterterrorism, says the anti government domestic terrorist threat comes from only a small percentage of misguided fellow Americans. Let me get your thoughts in the chat. No surprises. Boyne Life says the chaos they don't have scripted is out of their control. That is what's happening. Daughter of Eve and hater of Lilith says, I'm an unapologetic, no damn given, diehard Trump supporter, and Biden, his whole administration, FBI, Tainazi can all kiss my FBA ass and go to hell as far as I'm concerned. Let's go. You try to get me hyped this late at night. Who is that? Who came in the chat who came in the chat figuratively just dropping bombs? Daughter of Eve and hater of Lilith. Woo! Thank you. That got me pumped. That's a dope comment. How did you find the channel by chance? Because we don't have many FBA in here, and I love that. I got no beef. I talked with does Tariq consider himself FBA? I've talked with the FBA, type of people, and I'm like, why do we have beef? I mean, that's my number one thing when I talk to them. I'm like, many of them very smart people, very smart and thought through this stuff. They don't lick the boots of the Democrats. And I'm like, well, why do you have beef with MAGA? I'm like, that's the last group you should have beef with. And if you don't, FBA stands for Foundational Black American. I don't know what the technical definition is. That's a world that I don't jump into often. But you have your freedmen. Freedmen's different than FBA, right? So if you could educate me on that, out of respect. Foundational Black American, I have respect for that. As long as you don't look at yourself as a victim, I have a lot of respect. A lot of them are very patriotic too. So I appreciate you. They came in the comment. It came in the comment going, wow, alive this late is off. It's awesome for everybody except my brain is like, what are you doing, bro? I only had 1 cup of coffee. I've been having to do 2 cups. Only had 1 cup today. Spark says, wow, alive this late. Awesome. Well, that's great. That gets me pumped. It's all worth it just for that 1 comment. And to see Boring Life and Taco and everybody come on through. If you can't come on through on the live, you can catch it tomorrow. Or I got a clips channel. I don't really promote it. I don't know why, because I just promote it's too much to promote. I'm thinking about changing up the website and maybe because I like having one place to direct people, but I'm gonna try to do more clips for the clip, like the 8-minute segments or whatever, using those on the clips channel so I can get that monetized. It's not monetized, but I'm happy with. I appreciate YouTube. I've criticized YouTube, but they remonetize me. So I mean it's a big deal because my Chat GPT is $20 a month. My Midjourney is $20 a month. And I do subscribe to quite a few people on Twitter now, so I've got a bill on that for supporting other people. So that's where the money goes right now, is for supporting the channel. It's going to supporting other creators. But the thing I really like about X is, if you see that, I'll get back into this topic, but just going where the flow is taking me. The thing I like about X is, so I've got these are people I subscribe to. So these are paid subscriptions here. So if you look at, I really like Baked Alassa, DC Drano. Catherine Brodsky is someone I actually was able to meet in person. Really, really good. We had a great discussion. Really cool person. When she was on I just happened to be around when she was on the Culture War with Tim Pool. And that was a great episode. It was her and Ashley St. Clair. I saw Ashley St. Clair. I didn't get to talk with her. But the subscriptions is these are accounts where if you go, so I'm subscribed to Travis and Flint, really love this account. From the streets of Flint, Michigan. I didn't live by Flint, but I was in Michigan, loved Michigan. And you look at this account, I'm like, man, these people who have, see, the thing I like about Travis is that he posts stuff that I would post. I feel like I would post. So this is Travis. I wasn't sharing my screen. Here it is here. It's Elon Musk. So I think he's doing a lot of Midjourney. I think it's him doing Midjourney. So he turned Elon Musk into a woman with some assets on top. You got to have some fun, man. This stuff is crazy. You got to have fun. Travis and Flint says, after meeting Bill Gates, Elon texted a friend and said, at this point, I am convinced that he is categorically insane and an asshole to the core. They don't get along. But if I reply to this, because I'm subscribed to Travis, I can subscribe to this and say, Elon and Bill are like oil and water. It's a stupid reply, but I'm just showing you an example. So you reply, and then you get a little subscribe thing. And for the most part, not always, for the most part, you get a little bit of a boost in this video game of free speech. So if this is a viral post, not really that viral for him. I mean, he can get millions, but whatever. You can get more views on your post. That's the reply guy thing. So I'm just breaking that down. The money that I can get can reinvest into that, and that helps grow my reach. I actually like that. I like that better than Patreon because it's beneficial. It's mutually beneficial. One thing I never said is that Elon Musk didn't know how to design stuff. You never heard me say that. He doesn't know a damn thing about free speech. He's not a God-fearing man, so he doesn't have a good moral foundation. Not that you have to be God-fearing to have a moral foundation, but I know Elon doesn't have one. So if you're not God-fearing, then you got to get it from somewhere else. But I really like that with X. And it's, I hate to say it, I don't even use Getter anymore. Because any time that I could spend on Getter, I could use it on X. And even though, I'm probably shadow banned very heavily on X it goes by post, but I drop N-bombs in there, and I call fat women, like that fat woman that was in Walmart, I called her Cori Bush. I don't think that helps me in the algorithm. But who knows? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's not. That's not the thing, but you can still break through. You can still break through there. So that's what I've been using to try to get the reach on. I'm live on X right now. Big thing on X is Elon wants to keep you on X. So when I do the live on X, I'm going to say I'm live on X. And I think it eventually will get better. The video will get better. Right now, Twitter is actually better at audio, like this conference calls, than video. You can get much more reach on the audio conference call, in my opinion, than video. You don't even see a lot of people to put their videos on X. Tim Pool doesn't. I think it's because they don't have super chats. So Elon's got some work to do there. He will get that done, though. Why would I compare MAGA to, because we just talked about this news here that MAGA, people like you and I, are being potentially targeted by the FBI. And why would I compare MAGA to Fred Hampton and the Rainbow Coalition? Maybe that's a reach. Let's see. I did a little bit of a thing here, and I think there is a comparison. You have to swap out some of these words like racial justice and all that kind of stuff to get the true comparison. But I think there is a comparison to be made here between Fred Hampton, and I don't know if there's one leader with MAGA that I would compare, but just the movement is what I would say. If you want to know more, this is Fred. I'm going back to Fred Hampton of Black Panther Party fame. As the chairman of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party, Fred Hampton envisioned a united front against systemic oppression I don't think that's much different than what MAGA is doing. What do you think Matt Gaetz was fighting against? I mean, it's not the same view on it, but Matt Gaetz is fighting against. I don't. Oppression's not a word I would use. Matt Gaetz probably wouldn't use that either, but I think that's pretty close. Leading to the formation of the groundbreaking Rainbow Coalition in 1969. What was that? During this period of racial tension, and in our country, it's not, I don't think it's really racial tension. It's more either you pull the alarm or you don't like the alarm puller. That's the tension we have right now. And that's regardless of race. Hampton's Rainbow Coalition emerged as a beacon of unity during this very, very heavily racial. We had race riots and all kinds of stuff in Detroit, in Chicago. It was an alliance of the Black Panther Party, the Young Patriots Organization. So that would be like BLM teaming up with MAGA. That's the historical comparison I would make. And it's different because Black Panther Party was not corporate. It was not a fake corporate movement, but you get my point. They were Marxist, they're Lenin Marxists or whatever. They were true socialists. But the comparison still stands. Young Patriots Organization, comprised of white Appalachians and the Young Lords, a Puerto Rican group. Their common goal was to address societal challenges like police brutality, but things were different back then. So that police brutality was not as big of a divisive issue as it is now. And that's probably why they keep bringing that up now, police brutality. They want to go back to that where it was a hot topic in the 70s, 60s. And it's, to me, I don't see evidence that police brutality is a top 10 issue in our country. Housing rights and racial discrimination. So Fred Hampton was a leader that kind of brought everything together, supported free breakfast programs, like actually did stuff, breakfast programs for children in the neighborhoods. I didn't see that from BLM. There were some better local chapters, but I didn't see anything like this here. Medical clinics, recognizing the lack of affordable health care. Coalition set up community medical clinics offering free services. This is going to lead to my takeaway from the FBI's targeting MAGA. What does MAGA do? Not be scared, that's for sure. It doesn't sound like the FBA in the chat. Who was that in the chat? Again, Daughter of Eve. It doesn't sound like Daughter of Eve was like, I'm unapologetic. I'm not afraid. Protests and demonstrations. And then community patrols to counter police brutality and ensure community safety. Members patrol neighborhoods, monitoring police activities and intervening when necessary. What's the name of that mayor? Silva, who is a part of the what's the group he was a part of? The red group. What do they call? Gosh, it's late. I'm tripping. I covered them back when he was running for mayor. And he's a founder and chief executive officer of the Guardian Angels. So what you're seeing there is the Guardian Angels do some of that same type of work, but in New York, BLM, they were attacking them. We talked about that back when that thing was popping off. Yes, Boring Life, you did that. That's kind of I'm trying to take a positive takeaway from this, but that is the ending. Boring Life spoiled it. An untimely end. Tragically, his life was cut short in a raid by who? The Chicago police and who? The FBI. And I think if we want to counter what the FBI is looking to do, what Joe Biden's looking to do, I still say MAGA has to find a way to be able to reach out. No, let me take that back. I don't want to reach out, but a way to be palatable to people who typically wouldn't roll with MAGA. That has to happen. And I'm not even asking about the coalition because I don't even know if that's possible nowadays. But I think you can be more palatable. And this is what it looks like to me. Why wouldn't these people align with MAGA? Let's take a trip over across the country here. And we're going to take a trip to Chicago, just 19 seconds. And they're fed up. They're fed up with the situation. And how could you blame them?
We have a hard no for immigrants coming here. A very hard no.
We come in a community of black people where we already get the low scraps. And then you want to take the little scraps, the resources that we have, and put us at the bottom of the barrel? That's not fair, and I won't have it.
We have a hard no for immigrants coming here. A very hard no.
We come in a community of black people where we already get the low scraps. And then you want to take the little scraps, the resources that we have, and put us at the bottom of the barrel? That's not fair, and I won't have it.
So that's Chicago, and that's a heavy Biden-supported Democrat, anything supported area. And there's no way to make it through this unless that group there, I'm not trying to reach out to them, unless that group feels that it's palatable to not hate MAGA. So I'm not setting the bar very high. All I'm saying is that group doesn't need to hate. They shouldn't be triggered when they see the word MAGA. Can we get there? I don't know what that looks like. But I replied to this, and I said, that moment you realize that Trump isn't the racist he thought he was. So Trump believes you and is right there with you. And I would like to see Trump kind of say something about we're seeing this in Biden heavy areas, people upset with immigration. I'm with you. You don't have to vote for me. I'm just letting you know I'm with you. I want to hear more of that from MAGA. More of, you go libertarian, go somewhere else, make your own party. I ain't here to try to make you come over to my side. I'm not here for that. You know how I roll. You know what I'm about. But I'll support you if you want to get away from that plantation. See, the problem is they don't realize they're on the plantation, so they think their only choice is D. Colin Rugg says Chicago residents melt down over the surge in migrants in their communities, say they won't have it. They voted for this, so continue to give it to them. They will vote for this again in 2024, no remorse. Chicago Cook County, who overwhelmingly voted for Joe Biden at a rate of 74%, is learning in real time what it means to be a sanctuary city. One resident complained about getting the low scraps, as you heard. We come in a community of black people where we already get the low scraps. I'm not going to really get into that part of it, but you get what you want to get. You get what you fight to get. Do you want to take the little scraps, the resources that we have, and put us at the bottom of the barrel? That's not fair, and I won't have it. My question was, who are you mad at? I'll have to listen to more of their stance, more of their speeches, but I don't know who they're mad at. What do you want me to do? Here's what it looks like when a mayor is trying to run away from the policies they've supported, but they don't know how to do it. It turns into an awkward cell phone video shot on an airplane when you're on the way to the border. This is Eric Adams.
We are pulling off now to head to Mexico to speak with our leaders there and to really start the process.
It's hard to hear, so I'll read it. This is Eric Adams on an airplane. Eric Adams says, we are pulling off now to head to Mexico to speak with leaders of the area and to really start the process of understanding the flow of migrants here to New York City throughout the entire country. This is the type of conversation we believe needs to look at both local, I'm just going to turn the volume off here and play it, local, national, and international to come on to the resolution. Eric Adams, out of nowhere, didn't know this was going to happen. He just popped the video up there. He said he's going to New York. Somebody replied underneath me with a good point. Isn't that something you probably want to do before you label yourself a sanctuary city? And when Eric Adams becomes mayor, he now owns the sanctuary city label. And I guess just like many other things, until it becomes a very bad problem, you don't really do what you need to do. And he's going down to the border. And I think he's going to go down to the border. I highly doubt he's going to go down there to criticize the dereliction of duty of Joe Biden. I think he's going to go down there to blame southern states, ask for more money from Joe Biden, and to try to make himself look good, which is smart. This is smart politics. And I'm not even saying this is a bad idea. I mean, Eric Adams is not a terrible politician, believe it or not. I think he's a great example of whatever the incentive system is where he will go. So he's actually not a terrible politician. Nico House says, not going to lie, this is kind of weird. Acting like he doesn't understand how migrants get into the city is bizarre. But there's nothing Adams won't do to put on a good show. It's good politics. So Nico's saying, and Nico House is part of that populist left that would be considered MAGA, in my opinion. Nico House is saying he already knows how they're getting here. He's acting like he doesn't know how they're getting here. He knows how they're getting here. Some of them through Biden, too, allegedly. Through the federal government. It is weird. We're seeing some stuff. I'm like, politics is wild. I don't know how these people go to sleep at night. Dr. Zay says it's telling that as soon as Eric Adams started changing his stance on immigration, the media began calling him Black Trump. Now that's when he came out and the View went at him. They didn't want him complaining about immigration. But the problem is he can't hide from it anymore. Here's a compilation of what's happening from Viral NYC. A lot of these videos are coming from Viral NYC that you're seeing out here. Viral NYC has a video that they put together as a compilation, and it's getting kind of hectic out here. New York is like our capital city. Things are getting kind of hectic. So this is a Staten Island compilation, and what we're seeing is protests. It's laid over the back out. This is what I was telling people about yesterday. Where'd they get flashlights that do that? That thing is bright as hell. Damn. That thing looked like the sun magnified. It's a circle. I mean, that's the brightest thing I've ever seen on a flashlight. What the hell kind of flashlight is that? That motherfucking beam, that's a beam. That's like a laser beam. I would have thought that was like a portal to another dimension if I was walking by. It might be hard to see. Let me make my screen smaller. It's hard to see. Let me make it full blown. That's as big as I can make it. I don't think I can zoom in. Let me see if I can zoom in. I can't zoom. I don't know how to zoom without the trackpad. I don't have a trackpad hooked up. I want to call them illegal immigrants, but you really don't know, but they're pretty much illegal immigrants. And they're not going to get a trial till 2030 something. But they're walking through, going to the hotel or wherever they're going to get the paperwork or whatever done. And there's New Yorkers protesting it. And it's very fitting, though, because it's happening in darkness and the protesters are shining the light. I think that's a little aggressive. I would not be doing that. I would not condone that. For me, it's not mine. Do you have a right to do that? I think that crosses the line to me, but I'm not a lawyer. I think that crosses a line to you're blinding people while they're walking. That's when you start infringing on people, then I got a problem. But it is kind of fitting. They're like, we see you. Like they're shining a light on them. I see you. And again, I'm not against people who are coming here for a better life, but come here and represent for the right way, at least. But this is pretty intimidating with a bright ass light shining on them as they walk in. These are protesters pushing with the police. Again, I do not condone this. This is not a good. We got to learn the lesson from J6. I hope we learn the lesson from J6, everybody. Do not act a fool in the Democrat. This is Staten Island, but I mean, New York to me is overall just a Democrat hellhole. And I understand it's just pockets, but I don't think it's worth it. Definitely not in the certain boroughs that are just completely lost. DC as well. You don't run up in DC and protest. There's nothing there for you. You should be using that energy into doing something else. That's one of the lessons from J6 for me. So I'm not against these protesters, but I don't know what they're accomplishing other than putting their freedom on the line. Other than giving the FBI a reason to knock on their door. So this is peaceful. I like this. They're just, chanting USA, flying their flags. That's a lot of people protesting. I mean, we're looking at hundreds of people in this clip. Then they got their bright lights again on them. I mean, the flashlights look small, but the lights are bright. So it's just showing more people protesting. Chaos. So now they're trying to stop the bus coming through. That's part of the reason why they're going after MAGA. MAGA is giving people courage. What Matt Gaetz did, rolling up on Kevin McCarthy, you don't think other people see that and say, I might want to do something too? How did they get Nancy Mace to get involved? I still haven't figured that one out. And I think that might be an incentive one. And because she was even against Bannon. So, I mean, this is a textbook Bannon type of move to get Kevin McCarthy out there. And I think maybe she wanted to right that ship. Because a lot of people weren't happy with her stance on Steve Bannon and the J6 stuff. I believe that was from the J6 stuff. She was on the War Room. I did not see it yet. I do want to see it, but that's a hell of a transformation. Boring Life says, see that Babylon Bee on that exact issue. No, I didn't see that. Issue's going to get real. Yeah, we know that. NYPD, Taco says, NYPD assaulted these protesters. As much as I want to say you voted for this, saying that really doesn't help anything. Yeah, I have the same debate about like, hey, you voted for this. I mean, it's true, and I've said it. But I have that same thought in my head, Taco. I'm like, that doesn't solve anything. Like, what's the purpose of that? It's almost like I want to say there's a better way. There's other ways. That's what I want to say is like there's other options. You can move, you can save money, empower yourself. That's the message I want to really send. And brand that with MAGA. So it's not even like I'm not even really asking for your vote. You're in a different like mental plane than I am. Not a we're just not in the same book. But here's my suggestion. Like maybe that's too nuanced of a message, but I'd like to hear that more. I think that could be effective because when you don't have trust, you've got to build trust. So when people say, well, you've got to reach out to black people, and I'm like, okay, I guess. I mean, they just look at it as a numbers game. I don't, but maybe I'm wrong. But they look at it as if we spend $1 million in this blackety black area, we're only going to get so many votes and that's not going to change anything. So we're not going to do it. And my thing is, you don't even have to really go to the blackety black area. You just have to say, I'm not against you. I see the problems that you're having. I see you're on strike for these different reasons. I see that the healthcare issue that you're all having, and you guys are obviously complaining about immigration. I'm there with you. When we say replacement theory, it ain't just white people. You're getting replaced. And you don't have to come over to MAGA. Find a different way. Here are the different options. I trust you to do the best, to make the best choice for yourself. I don't hear that message because that's not really how politics works. Politics really works more with, and I think MAGA has to be different. MAGA has to operate differently. And got to separate. You have to separate from Trump to do that. Because Trump's not doing that. You're going to have to get other people in the movement. And I think it'll be very powerful. I want to talk about Mitch. So Mitch McConnell came out and he was pretty clear. Newt Gingrich, all of them, they are coming out pretty strong. And I'm going to show you what they really mean when they say this stuff. This is really like overt, we hate you, we hate common people type stuff is what we're seeing here. Let me bring it up here. This is Mitch McConnell. Just heard this from today, and I had a reply for it. Benny Johnson tweeted it on X, breaking McConnell calls for the House to get rid of the motion to vacate rule because it makes the speaker's job impossible. Okay. Is that really what we're doing now?
I'd like to start by thanking Speaker McCarthy for his service. We had a great personal relationship, trying to lead two very different parts of the American government. I think he has much to be proud of. We avoided a government shutdown. We did the inevitable with regard to the debt ceiling, and I'm one person who's extremely grateful for his service. I have no advice to give to House Republicans except one. I hope whoever the next speaker is gets rid of the motion to vacate. I think it makes the speaker's job impossible. And the American people expect us to have a functioning government. On the Senate side, we need to get as many appropriation bills passed as possible. The majority leader's indicated that's what he would like to do as well, and he'll have plenty of cooperation from us in trying to achieve as close to a regular appropriations process as we possibly can.
The good thing here is, number one, that he didn't have a heart attack. He didn't stroke out like he sounded like he was about to. He didn't, which is a good thing. And he's going to hang on to power until he Dianne Feinsteins. But the other good thing is, you know this thing where the Senate is like above, like they're the varsity team, and then the House is like lower than they're like the freshman team. The Senate looks down on the House. There's fewer people in the Senate. They're more powerful. Those days are over. Those days are done. I'm really happy about it too. I don't think anybody, why are those days done? MAGA. That's why those days are done. What Matt Gaetz did. There ain't no one doing that. We've seen this now. The Senate is not holier than thou. Don't care what you think. And this whole thing where the House normally doesn't talk too much about the Senate doesn't talk too much about the House, I think those days are over too. You're hearing that right there. That's why he started with, I'm not going to tell the House what to do, because in the back in the before times, the House, it was a big no for the House to tell the Senate what to do. And then also, not as big a no because they're supposed to be the big brothers or whatever, but the Senate wouldn't tell the House what to do. And now you see that McConnell's old school, he had to break away from that. And he said, I don't think y'all should, whoever is the next speaker, because they're going to negotiate new terms. We're starting from scratch. We're back in January 5th. That's what happened. So remember, January 5th, there were no rules, no agreements. So all those rules and all that, that's done. So I think Matt Gaetz is like, well, we know we're going to get that same agreement, right? Otherwise, they're just going to be shut it down. I don't think they won't be able to pick a speaker. So Mitch McConnell says, I think y'all should get it together. I got, well, except one. I'm like, no, I don't have any advice for that House except one.
For his service. I have no advice to give to House Republicans.
Isn't that a weird way to say it? I have no advice to give to you. Well, except one piece of advice I have to give to you.
Except one. I hope whoever the next speaker is gets rid of the motion to vacate. I think it makes the speaker's job impossible.
Oh. Why should the speaker have an easy job, Mitch? That's him telling you, the same people who support the FBI waiting to knock on your door, he's telling you that he doesn't care what the American people voted in the House. We tell you how this runs. That's what he said right here. That's what he means here.
One. I hope whoever the next speaker is gets rid of the motion to vacate. I think it makes the speaker's job impossible. And
the speaker's job is supposed to be impossible by design, not supposed to be easy. I replied and I said, astonishingly, the implication here is that despite Americans casting their votes in an era more divided fundamentally than during the Civil War, the expectation is for the role of the speaker to be a walk in the park. That's what this corrupt, if you want to know why I call these people corrupt, self-aspirational sleazebag people, that's why. We are more divided fundamentally now than we were during the Civil War. Not even close. They weren't debating gender assignment, affirming surgery back then. So if our country is that divided and the House is the people's house, I don't care what you say about J6, it's still our house. I don't care if you put fences and barbed wires around it. It's our house until we secede and then say it's your house. I would prefer that, but ain't nobody rolling, so it's still our house. It should be that divided in our house. That's the design. How could we be this divided in a country and the speaker role be easy? Does that make any sense to you? No. If it were that divided and the speaker role was easy, then that means we don't matter. That's what that means. That's what he wants. That's what Nancy Pelosi had. So you look at Ron DeSantis and all the great things he's done, great for Florida. Don't get me wrong. Look at Jerry Polis in Colorado, governor, and disagree with him on a lot of things, but he's been able to do a lot of things. Why? Because he's got a trifecta. They both got trifectas. They got the state legislative body, and then they got the governors. They're all in lockstep. So that means the people of Florida, the people in Colorado, I don't believe that. I believe the vote is invalid, rigged. I don't trust it, but this is where we are. The people in Colorado, and I do believe the Florida vote, but people in Colorado and Florida and other states have given their elected officials the edict that things should be easy. Why? Because they pretty much voted people from the state house to the state or they call them lower chamber, whatever, lower chamber, to the state senate, to the governor's body, to the AG, to the secretary of state. They voted them in to be in lockstep and to go boom, 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 boom. We have not given you that edict, Mitch. It's our house now. So you look at it. Mitch is trying to sell a fallacy to ignorant people who don't know what's happening or how things should work. That's why you hear these ignoramuses, not in a good way like Stephen, these true ignoramuses say that the House Republicans don't know how to govern because of MAGA. No, actually, they are actually governing how it's supposed to go. Gridlock. It's not a bug, it's a feature. The electorate chose a challenging political landscape, not a smooth road for any speaker, meaning you have 435 different districts. When you do the math and look at it all, the electorate chose a challenging political landscape. Do you see how this ties into the main topic for the show? They're going after the same people who chose a challenging political landscape. Why? Because Mitch McConnell doesn't want a challenging political landscape. Nancy Pelosi doesn't want a challenging political landscape. It's not supposed to be a smooth road for any speaker. In the current national atmosphere, why would anybody assume that this role would be straightforward? It isn't a flaw. It's a safeguard. It's a necessary check to protect citizens from people like Mitch McConnell. So other than that, he got everything right. Jordan Lott, thanks for coming back and bringing us back to liberty. What's happening with MAGA here? I hope I think Jordan Lott really gets this, but not every libertarian does. Donnie, I believe her name is, with Jeff Charles. And I think she's good. There's no beef to her, but I don't think she gets this. And in fact, I know she doesn't get this. And one of the things in the libertarian or any movement is you've got people in the libertarian movement who are more concerned about their libertarian card than what's good or what's bad. And that happens in the populist left a lot. But let's see if I can find it real quick. I saw it earlier today where, I think it was today, where Donnie posted about Matt Gaetz and was talking about authoritarianism. What is this? Sheila Jackson Lee spills the beans on covert PETA agenda in Congress. In Congress, you need co-sponsors, you need co-conspirators, if you will. And so from Texas to New York to Pennsylvania, you just put 3 co-conspirators together to fight for PETA in new Congress. I don't know what that means. Looks like that's been retweeted a lot. I don't know what's going on there. Wow. It's a lot of that. Is that retweeted on her timeline? Okay, this is the one. This is the one. So this is the video of the infamous now video of Ilhan Omar. So this is the infamous. This is the infamous, and I don't really think Ilhan was looking at him like that. She was just, whatever in her own world or something. It's just my opinion. But Donnie says if the left and right wing authoritarianism regime was a love song. Donnie, what Matt Gaetz is doing is liberty. I hate to break it to you. He's decentralizing power. He set up the rules with the other courageous people. Here are the rules that the speaker doesn't get this immunity that Mitch McConnell wants the speaker to have. Basically immunity. I forget the exact rules, but it was very hard to motion to vacate. So Nancy Pelosi's like, I'm not making this easy to motion to vacate. And Matt Gaetz said, I am. That's decentralization, meaning I have more power now. Any one person in the House, any one of them, doesn't matter what party, all 435 of them, I think some of them are out sick, but 435 could have done the motion. That's populism, distributing power to as many people as possible. They represent all of us. When you look at them, you should look at the country. It's because we have to go to work, we got to do other things. Their job's to represent us. So what decentralization, that is a part of liberty. And Matt Gaetz is, and I don't know why there's a criticism here. I don't know if it's, maybe I'm taking it too seriously, but I don't like it. There's overlap with MAGA. There's overlap with MAGA and libertarians, and you've got to be able to realize where that overlap is. And of course, Jordan Lott is right in the wheelhouse of it to me, but a lot of people aren't. So that was the scene there. Taco says, maybe we should invoke the Communist Control Act of 1954 and remove the establishment. I'm not familiar with the Communist Control Act of 1954. So I can look that up. But let me go on. Scott Adams kind of predicted this a while back. Basically, the FBI going after MAGA. This is from 2020. This is in the same thread where that one dude replied, quote tweeted him, and then ended up dead. Republicans will be hunted. This is from July 1st, 2020. Scott Adams. If Biden is elected, there's a good chance you'll be dead within the year. Republicans will be hunted. That's what Scott Adams said. Fast forward, now it's more than a year, but fast forward, it's pretty much what's happening. L.R. Burke said, I'm disappointed in you, Scott. We Democrats all have Republicans in our families, and we love them. We won't hunt you. We'll work to give you better healthcare options. We'll work to ease your student debt. This tweet is irresponsible. Which tweet aged better? Yeah, they basically are hunting down J6ers after setting them up. They set up the people against Governor Gretchen Whitmer, hemming up the Michigan alternate electors, going after everyone in Trump's circle and anywhere kind of in his tentacles in Georgia. And then trying to basically compensate his businesses in New York and distribute them to an auction. All of that happened since these tweets were done. So Scott Adams was right on the head there. I said I talked about reaching out. Well, not reaching out, but presenting an option to say, "Hey, I'm not against you." But some people were giving Sexy Red some props here. Let me tell you what happened. Breaking Dom Luker, if I'm pronouncing that right. I don't even know how to pronounce it, but this is one of the best dudes on X. One of the top probably 1% accounts especially politically, on the platform. Breaking news, rapper Sexy Red just announced that she likes President Trump. We did that live about Benny the Butcher, and I could kind of see, I don't think you really like Trump, but you just think it's maybe cutting edge now, which do you. But I'll give you my take after I kind of show the clip. She is undoubtedly currently one of the hottest artists in the game right now. I'm not a fan, but that's an accurate statement, though. Red announced in her recent interview, at first, I don't think people was effing with him like they thought he was racist, saying little ish and, against women. Let's just hear from her. Okay.
Yeah, they support him in the hood. Because at first, I don't think people was fucking with him like they thought he was racist, saying little shit and, against women. But once he started getting black people out of jail and giving people their free money, oh, baby, we love Trump. We need him back in office.
Yeah, that a little bit of free money goes a long way.
We need him back. Because, baby, them checks.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, them stimulus checks, Trump, we miss you.
That's like Whoa Vicky. She's always talking about Trump. You see her ever?
I like Trump. No, I ain't never seen Whoa Vicky.
She's funny.
I love Trump, though. He funny to me. I used to watch his interviews, not interviews, him talking to people. He used to be calling people fat.
Yeah.
He just bold.
Wow.
He funny. Like,
We're
we
trying
need
to-
people like him.
Well, I don't know.
So at the end, I obviously agree with her at the end of that, but I'm not really for this. Not really. No, go ahead and support Trump if you want. That's perfectly fine. I'm not gonna. What you are entitled to support him or not for whatever reason you want, but this does not excite me. Your reasoning for supporting Trump is he the stimulus checks. You don't even know what's happening. Just like she wouldn't want me commenting on her lifestyle, I'm going to criticize her when she steps into the role of politics. I would appreciate if you do some work. And she's stepping into the role of politics, and to me, that's no different than a celebrity going after, supporting Biden. I'm fine with it. I'm not against her. Go ahead and do that. But we are not on the same side or team or anything like that. You're on some nonsense. You have no substance. So to me, you're not worth anything to me because you'll just flutter in the wind like a butterfly. That's why I said you can't reach out to these types here. They're all emotion. There's no substance there. She doesn't know what's happening. She just, basically what her answer comes down to is, I think Trump's cool now. And I'm fine with that if you have substance along with that, because I think it matters that Trump's cool. What happened to DeSantis? He was not cool. That kind of hurt him. But you need more substance than that. Not cool or cool. So that's Sexy Red. Kind of start, continuing the trend that we're seeing with hip hop. Hip hop artists think it's kind of rebellious now to support Trump. It's not cool to support Biden. So you're seeing that. Like, I don't think you're going to see a lot of hip hop artists support Biden. It's just, the major label ones might not have a choice. I don't know what label she's on or what. She's just whack. I don't know much about her. I do not like her music, so I do not partake. Don't get into much of what she does. So, Did you know that there was a Yoruba kingdom and Dahomey kingdom in South Carolina? I didn't know that. I think I found this out. Was this from Dom too? Dom has a lot of great. No, this is Daily Sneed. I like Daily Sneed a lot. I like this account a lot. I get a lot of good kind of like interesting topics. They curate topics that you don't see anywhere else really, which is a very smart strategy. Here you go. I'll just play the little TikTok.
Did you know there's a whole African village in Seabrook, South Carolina? No, seriously, they are a separate entity.
So there's a African village in South Carolina. Did you know that? I was today years old when I found out there was a African village in South Carolina.
Did you know there's a whole African village in Seabrook, South Carolina? No, seriously, they are a separate entity from the United States and North America's first international community.
What is that? I don't even know what that means. North America's first international community.
Tunji Yoruba African Kingdom is tribal land that offers a glimpse into the culture of the Yoruba and Dahomey tribes. Before entering the Mali-styled grand entrance, you're required to put some respect on the Orishas and ancestors' names. The village boasts markets, monthly festivals, decorative temples, workshops, and beautiful art. We got an insightful tour from Ifafunki, and of course, the first stop was the Orisha Eligua. The village was established in the 1970s and it's located in a very historical area. It's surrounded by 13 major former plantations and is directly located in the area.
Oh, so you see how they put that in there? We'll get to the plantations in a second.
Where Harriet Tubman freed hundreds of enslaved individuals. We must also remember that
is such a weird flex when you know the history of what they're talking about here.
before any of that happened, this was already land that belonged to indigenous peoples. The village sits on 17 acres of...
What does that have to do with anything? They're talking about Native Americans. It had nothing to do with these African tribes.
land, and it also has a school that is accredited and currently being remodeled. The village was built by Oba Ifun Tola. The word Oba means king, and the name Oyo Tunji is inspired from the kingdom of Oyo, and it means Oyo returns or Oyo rises again. The village is open to the public for tours and events, and the community is being developed through volunteer work. This is solid proof that it's very possible for us to build our own communities. Let me know in the comment section if you were aware that this village even exists.
The Harriet Tubman landing. That is so weird. Let me tell you why it's weird. And I tie this into the hunting down MAGA because MAGA is the only political group that would criticize this, right? I don't see libertarians would probably like it. I mean, I do from a standpoint of them being on peace, create your own community, almost like a museum, but it looks like people really do live there. But this needs to be criticized. I was not happy when I saw this because historically it's almost as bad. I mean, to me, this is almost as bad as cheering the Nazi. Let's go back to these tribes. So I did a little article on this. The unspoken reality of the Dahomey and Yoruba tribes in the context of slavery. So they kept bringing up slavery near the plantations. You mean the same plantations that the Yoruba and the Dahomey tribes sold their own people to Europeans to bring them here on those plantations? You conveniently left that out. Imagine a kingdom so powerful that it thrived. I didn't put it on the website yet, but via middlemaga.com, that it thrived on the sale of human beings. Imagine a kingdom so powerful. This is the same kingdom from the Woman King. Imagine the kingdom so powerful that it thrived on the sale of human beings. That was the kingdom of Dahomey, flourishing in the 18th and 19th centuries in what is now southern, I don't know how to pronounce that, Benin. Dahomey was not just a passive participant in the slave trade. It was a kingdom organized for war. Now, they were very good at war. So here's my thing. If you had this area and you acknowledged the accurate history, I'd be like, great. But, and this is just a TikTok, so I don't know what they acknowledge. I doubt they do. But it was a kingdom organized for war, designed to expand its territories and take captives as slaves. These captives were either sold to Europeans in exchange for weapons or kept to work on royal plantations. And I get it. You get conquered, you get destroyed, you get slaved. It didn't matter what skin color. These are Africans enslaving other Africans and selling them to Europeans is what's happening. And then the Europeans took them over, Americans took them back over to the States in places like where they were in the TikTok in South Carolina. On those plantations that they said Harriet Tubman helped the slaves escape. And they just seem to not even acknowledge that the slaves that Harriet Tubman were helping escape were enslaved and sold by the kingdom or the community that you were Yaz queening. The kingdom even had regular census for military conscription and employed female soldiers known as Amazons as royal bodyguards. That's the movie, The Women King. Well, I still haven't seen it. I do want to see it, but I don't watch many movies. I was watching, for some weird reason, Rush Hour 3 the other day. That wasn't the best of them, but the Dahomey kingdom was so intricately linked to the slave trade that its prosperity was directly tied to it. It wasn't even just that. It was the prosperity and then its existence. It didn't have to battle the Europeans if the Europeans used it as like a distributing plant or something, basically, for humans. When Britain put an end to the overseas slave trade around 1840, Dahomey transitioned to palm oil exports, but this was far less lucrative than human beings. Eventually, the kingdom's economic decline led to its absorption into the French colony of Dahomey in the late 19th century. The Yoruba peoples, middlemen in the slave trade. The Yoruba people, primarily from what is now Nigeria, also played a significant role in the Atlantic slave trade. It's funny, people, when I meet people sometimes, especially Africans, they'll say, where are you from in Africa? They just assume, like they'll just straight up assume. And I get it. I tell them, well, my parents are Jamaican. That's probably what you're seeing. So, I'll tell them, this just happened to me last week, and I'll be like, I don't know actually which part of Africa, but, Africans didn't naturally grow up in Jamaica. They were taken there or got there somehow. A lot of people say that the slave trade didn't work that way. Even like Hotep Jesus. And I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just not knowledgeable enough in that aspect. So I just go with what I've seen in research. So the Atlantic slave trade, which ran from the 1400 to 1900. The Oyo Empire, Yoruba state, acted as middlemen for the trans-Saharan and transatlantic slave trades. The empire's captives and criminals were sold to Dutch and Portuguese buyers. However, the Yoruba people were not just suppliers, they were also cultural exporters. Elements of Yoruba religion and culture found their way into Afro-American spiritualities like Santeria and Candomblé Ketu. So I just wanted to break that. I just want to bring that reality to the table and really end with that, is that MAGA is kind of the conduit to kind of breaking people away from all of that. It really is. There's no other group politically that's going to do it. The populist left isn't going to do it. They're out. They don't get it because they wouldn't honestly they wouldn't disagree with me if I brought it up, but that's not just like there's a lot of things that I wouldn't bring up. So there's a lot of opportunity for MAGA. I'm going to leave out too. I was watching this. My wife put me onto these. These videos, this is completely hard left right here, and then I'll be out. There's these videos. Have you seen these videos with dogs getting chiro work? So they got the chiropractor helping the dogs, and it's just really some of the most amazing stuff to see.
This dog was having mobility issues, so he was taken to a chiropractor to help him, and his reaction when the chiropractor did the crack is hilarious. His eyes went wide open in shock, not knowing what just happened, looking like he just got restarted. The chiropractor then asked him was that good, and he gave him a smile. This dog was having mobility issues, so he was taken to a chiropractor to help him, and his reaction when the chiropractor did the crack is hilarious. His eyes went wide open in shock, not knowing what just happened, looking like he just got restarted. The chiropractor then...
So the chiropractor is snapping the dog's neck. I mean, you got to be a professional to do that. And the dog, when the neck is snapped, the dog is like, what the hell?
Hey.
Whoa. Wow.
Ich lass langsam wieder los, okay?
Wow. That dog was, most of them that I've seen haven't been growling like that. He's doing this to it looks like a pit. You don't want to mess with those dogs. That one didn't look happy. Usually they look happy after he snaps the neck or whatever. Look at this. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of hard to see. He's got his hands around the dog, and then he snaps the neck. He's a professional. And the dog looks happy. I think these are real videos. HWS blockage solved. So the dog was in pain or something.
Okay.
And he snapped the neck, and then the dog's like, what the? And then the dog's licking him. I was watching these for like a half an hour straight. They're like 10-second videos. I'm watching them for like a half an hour. Now this one, he's wrapping a towel around this pit's neck. I want to hear the snap.
Stramm halten? Ja. Genau, fest, ne? Ja.
Is he German? Do not try this at home. Wow. He's twisting the neck.
Okay. Fine.
Wow. And then the dog's like super happy. Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
This dog was having mobility issues, so
I don't know, man. That is something else. Let me see. Look at this one here. He does it to Rottweilers. Oh wow. Dang, those dogs are no joke. Oh my gosh. I don't know if he's putting the sound. Look at this. And then the dog's licking him. So the dog was kind of growling. Wasn't happy. But he's being the alpha. That's half the battle. And he's not giving up. So then he's holding the dog's neck and its mouth. And then cracks the neck. And the dog is clearly feels like better immediately. It's the same video over and over, and I've watched, I don't know, a lot of them recently. It's so cool. Oh my gosh. Because I always wonder, like, are these real or not? But this looks real. This time he's going to do it on the back. Professional, man. Taco says, "Oh, I love pitties. I'm not a huge pit bull. Daughter of Eve and hater of Lilith says, to all my fellow dog parents, blue-nosed male pit bull, do not try this at home. And do not. Yeah, let me be clear. I'm not trying this. Do not try this at home. Please do not try this at home." 20 Kevron said, "I think Hopetep is wrong." But see, the problem, I got to read the books he's been reading. I mean, he's much better read on many topics than I am. But you probably know that there's a lot of people who argue that what is the argument then? How did we get here if their argument, I got to research that black hole, that rabbit hole. How they think we got here if it wasn't, like how did I get from Africa to Jamaica? I don't know how that works. I watched the hot girl version. Do they do the Cairo with hot girls? I haven't seen that. Randall Hill says, "I have a great pit bull." Good. Yeah, we have a family friend who has a real lovely pit. And I'm not saying pits are bad. I'm just in general, don't hurt a dog, and any dog can be aggressive. I'm not an expert. Pits are no joke though. Once they lock on to you, and they're just like a ball of muscle, so they're intimidating. Especially the ones that they got the bigger heads, and they're just, I mean, they're very lean, like very, very lean and muscular dogs. Well, that's it. Thanks everybody for checking out the live. I'm gonna try to do it, every night. We'll see. Some will be longer than others, shorter than others, but I appreciate y'all. Let me sure. Yep. All right. I appreciate y'all. Take care. Oh, I forgot. I wanted to leave out on the J6 because we were doing MAGA. I actually didn't want to leave out on the puppies. I wanted to leave out. I watch this video every once in a while from the homie, one of my favorite follows, Migueli Fornia. And I think this might be the video I found out about him with. But they're trying to target J6ers. They're trying to target MAGA in the streets. And they paint January 6th as this, awful event. Steve Smith was on with Patrick Bet-David and embarrassed himself. But Miguel Afonia really was there. And here's how it really went down. says, I was there that day.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. I was there that day.